What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the first part of a story where Issei was the son of the heavenly dragon Ddraig. Issei Hyoudou, the direct son of both Ddraig the Welsh dragon emperor and Tiamat the chaos karma dragon. 600 years after the events of the Great War, Issei is once again for like the 100th time thrown into the workings of the devils, but at a town called Kouh in Japan. He befriends a devil by the name of Rias Gremory, heiress to the house of Gremory, but maybe there's more development between him, her peerage and others that might get involved with him. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 1. Overworld, Earth, year 1405. In the vast distance, three great factions were colliding in a war. The three-way fight was ferocious between devils, angels and fallen angels. The four great Satans, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Leviathan and Asmodeus, on the angels' side Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Uriel and Raphael, the four great heiress, with the fallen angels General Governor Azazel, Vice Governor Shemhazai, Barakiel the lightning of God, Penemu the chief secretary, and Kakabiel the bloodthirsty warmonger. The battle raged with sounds of death and weapons clashing, grinding against each other. However, out of nowhere the three faction leaders halt their advances and look at a certain direction off in the background, flashing colors of white, blue and another, red, with prominent aspects of green present. All the faction leaders look at each other, but to be met with contorted faces of confusion. "Why have we stopped fighting?" Michael exclaims. "I don't know, but something is telling me to cease this little feud," Azazel calmly retorts. "Who dares to interrupt our war?" Lucifer Morningstar growls with a hint of annoyance. With every second the minifigures increase in size until the leaders could make out the figures. The figures are that of two dragons. One red dragon and one white dragon. As they got closer, two voices could be heard, one deep and gruff voice shouting boost, with the occasional transfer and penetrate. On the other hand, the voice from the white dragon was calm and smooth, yet also deep, crying out divide and half dimension, with the odd call of reflect. These two dragons were known as Ddraig the red dragon emperor of domination, and Albion Gwyber, the white dragon emperor of supremacy. They were the heavenly dragons that always had a grudge with one another. No one knows why. One day they just started fighting an endless conflict. Was it a mate they fought over? Maybe because they saw each other as equals that needs to be unbalanced. Either way, they were getting closer and closer by the second until the dragons were on top of devils, angels and fallen. "Hey!" Lucifer shouted in irritation. The two dragons stopped their clash and looked at the devil, who announced himself. "Yes, what do you want? Can't you see we are fighting?" Albion spoke in a calm tone. Lucifer's eyebrow twitched in annoyance. "You interrupted our war." Lucifer's tone escalates with venom. Albion and Ddraig scan their surroundings. "So?" Albion retorts, disinterested. Lucifer grits and grinds his teeth, saying, "You have the nerve to come here, interrupt our battle and continue your feud and just shrug this off. Now Lucifer, my brother, let's not become irrational," Michael calmly says. "And why should I?" Lucifer remarks, clearly pissed off. "Because of these two, we've had to stop our fight." Both Albion and Ddraig twitch at the comment. "Well, we are so sorry for interrupting." Ddraig snapped back sarcastically. "I'll make you eat those words." Lucifer screams out a war cry. "Try it then. It won't end well for you." Ddraig snorts. "Red dragon," Michael calls out. What is it now?" Ddraig replies, uninterested. "Why are you two here?" Michael questions. "We are here to settle a score." Albion butts in. "That's so?" Azazel raises an eyebrow. "Yes." Albion speaks indifferently. "Well, would you settle your score somewhere else?" Lucifer screamed in anger. "Humph, no." Albion was clearly about to roast the devil. "And Lucifer shouts in pure unadulterated rage. Albion looks at Ddraig, who slowly shakes his head. Albion faces the berserk devil and incinerates him down to the bone. "Lucifer, Beelzebub, Leviathan," Asmodeus cries out. "How dare you?" The Satans then raise their weapons to the dragons. Azazel and Michael nod to each other, then he faces towards the remaining Satans. "Boy, devils," Azazel call out. The Satans turn towards the fallen leader. "How about a temporary truce?" Azazel smirks. The Satans nod their heads simultaneously. "We will back you up then," Azazel says, getting serious, creating a multitude of light spears. "Time skip, 1 hour 30 minutes. "Ugh, Albion," Ddraig called out in pain. The white dragon is seen to be critically wounded, with Ddraig being able to move, but still able to look around his surroundings. He and Albion killed the rest of the Satans, however the angels overpowered both Albion and Ddraig to a significant degree. Albion was comatose, although Ddraig was full conscious and aware. Ddraig looked around and locked onto Michael with a light spear in hand, ready to log it through Albion's body. The red dragon felt someone walk onto his torso. It was Azazel. "Any last words, dragon?" Azazel said. Ddraig plops his head on the ground without an ounce of strength left and speaks. "Tiamat, I'm sorry, it looks like I won't be coming home this time, haha, and to watch our hatchling grow into a proper dragon, forgive me." Ddraig mutters under his breath. Ddraig closes his eyes, accepting his fate. Azazel strikes down on the flimsy body of the dragon of domination. "It is done." Azazel spoke towards Michael. "Good, well, let father deal with them." Michael replied as he collects the souls of both Ddraig and Albion. The floats down from the sky and Michael kneels. "Now, my children, what has happened here?" The figure spoke. "Father, we're in battle when the two heavenly dragons invaded and interrupted us," Michael said with respect in his voice. "I see." The figure, known as Yahweh, the father of all angels, replied inquisitively. "And you've made a truce with the fallen and devils?" The father of the angels questioned. "Temporarily, yes," Michael answered while still kneeling. "Alright, do you have the dragon souls?" "Yes, they're here, here you go, father." Michael revealed Ddraig's and Albion's souls. "Wonderful." Yahweh then starts to construct two objects, one that took the shape of a pair of white, gold and blue glowing wings, and while the other took the form of a glove which was red, gold and green gems that would spread up to the elbow. These will be named the Divine Dividing, able to divide an opponent's stamina and energy, while the divided energy is transferred to the host, and the wielder would have to get stronger to endure more energy. And the boosted gear able to boost the user's power, strength, energy, stamina to abnormal levels multiple times, but that depends on the wielder's endurance to withstand the boosts. I have classed these to be mid-tier and high-tier Longinus class sacred gears, if utilized perfectly. Ugh. Suddenly Yahweh fell to the ground. "Father." Michael, Gabriel, Uriel and Raphael shout out in worry. Michael caught his father before he could fall all the way to the surface. "Son." Michiel looks at his father with a visible worried face. "Son, you will have to look after the system in my stead." Michael widened his eyes. "What? I can't do that." "You have to. I'm counting on you." Yahweh spoke as he takes his last breath and closes his eyes forever. Michael stares at his father as his father started to glow a bright gold and dissolved into nothingness. "Father, I will do the best I can," Michael said with sadness evident in his voice. Somewhere on Earth. In the underworld, in a cave, there lives a blue western dragon that was frantically pacing around, like waiting for something or someone. "Ugh, where is he? He should be here by now, he's never this late." The blue dragon quips in frustration. This blue dragon is the Chaos Karma dragon Tiamat, who is one of the dragon kings, and the strongest one out of all of them. "To hell with this, I'm going out and searching for him." Tiamat crawled out of the cave and went to a cliff to take off. Tiamat remembers what Ddraig told her, where he was going and the direction. Tiamat took off and flew at high speeds. It didn't take her any more than 20 minutes to arrive at the start of the battlegrounds, where Ddraig and Albion must have started their duel. Following the chaos and destruction like a tracker hunting a set of footprints. Tiamat flew above the trail to a widely destroyed area that was the three-way war between the factions with blooded and dismembered bodies everywhere, but what caught Tiamat's eye is the corpses of two deceased dragon. She didn't pay any mind to the white dragon, only the red one. Tiamat flew towards the dead carcass of Ddraig and screamed, "Ddraig." Tiamat roared as she galloped over to him. Tiamat takes Ddraig's body into her arms and caresses his torso as she breaks down and cries for what seemed like hours. "Why?" Tiamat roars towards the sky in despair and sadness. Why Ddraig, why did you have to leave me?" Tiamat sobbed. "Leave us?" Tiamat looked down at her abdomen and placed her clawed hand over it. "You was going to be a father." "Time skip, 5 years." "That's it." Tiamat spoke happily. "Come on Issei, come on, that's it. You're getting bigger eyes, haha." Tiamat laughed with happiness. "Mama." Issei, a boy with a dominant red and ice blue hair, heterochromatic eyes, left eye is a deep emerald green and on the right a calming ice blue color. The boy shouted out to his mother out of happiness and excitement. Due to the excitement, Issei was feeling it was strong enough to bring out something completely unexpected and impossible to fathom. A bright red light shone in the room until it died out, and what replaced Issei's left hand and arm was a deep red gauntlet with golden spikes and an emerald green gem in the top of the hand. Tiamat widened her eyes, seconds go by, and Issei is staring at the thing that's on his hand. Tiamat feels trails of warmth trickling down her face. She lifts her right hand and touches her cheek and found out that she's now crying. The green gem glows on the gauntlet. "Hello Tiamat." Ddraig's voice spoke out of the gauntlet, which sounds like he is sad. "This does it for Tiamat." "Ddraig." Tiamat spoke while crying even harder, going into a wail. "I'm glad to see you, my love." Ddraig spoke in an apologetic tone. Ddraig, I love you too, but what happened? Do you know how lonely I've been without you? Tiamat cried. Ddraig tells Tiamat what happened with him and Albion. And that's what happened. Ddraig finishes. I was waiting for you to come home, but after a few hours went by I started to get worried, and so I came to find you. However, I come across the landscape that was filled with nothing but death and destruction. I found your body, also Albion's, but nobody gives a shit about him. But still seeing you dead. It broke me. After that I was alone for 14 months until this little one came into my life. Tiamat looks at Issei and ruffles his hair, while Tiamat was in floods of tears. Tiamat. Ddraig responded with sadness in his voice. From now on, I will push my pride aside and do everything I can to support our family to the very best of my ability. Ddraig states with confidence. Thank you, Ddraig. Tiamat smiles glee. Anything for my gorgeous wife. Ddraig compliments. Oh, stop, you're making me blush. Tiamat stated it as fact because she was actually blushing quite hard as well. What's going on? Issei expresses confusion that's noticeable on his face. Issei, this is your father. Tiamat answered her confused son with a smile. My father? Issei eyebrows raised and looked down to the gauntlet. Yes, Issei, I am your father. Ddraig confirmed. So if you're my father then, where have you been all this time? Issei was filled with concerned thoughts. Inside of you, mainly your soul as the boosted gear is connected with you spiritual essence, and because of that I'm linked to you till the day you die. Ddraig explains. Right, so meaning no matter where I am on both Earth and the underworld, you will be able to speak with me. Issei justifies. Yes, as I am a part of you now, I can talk to you in your mind, and in the mindscape I will be able to show my physical body. Ddraig declares proudly. Cool. I can't wait. Issei's surge of excitement grew exponentially after this. Tiamat couldn't help but giggle at the bundle of joy, while Ddraig went into a full-blown laugh at his son's actions. Time skip, night. Issei's mindscape. After a happy and joyful day, Issei couldn't contain his excitement, but eventually he succumbed to fatigue. Once he was asleep he entered his subconscious, he took a quick gander around the area to find that it's completely pitch black. At that moment, a large wall of fire engulfed his sight. Hello, son. Ddraig announced his presence. Dad, is that you? Issei looked directly at the fire. Ddraig's dragon form, which was 55 meters, emerged from the blaze. Normally a person would be afraid of me and cower at my presence. Ddraig smirks. Why would I be afraid of you? Issei raises an eyebrow. You are clearly my father, now that I am close to you, I can feel the resemblance between us. And also, you look so cool. Issei expresses. Ha. Thank you son, having you say that fills me with pride. Ddraig spoke confidently. Anyway, son, let's talk about some things and catch up. How's your mother, are you looking after her well? Time skip, 1 hour later. And that is the 3 biblical factions as well as how me and Albion died. Ddraig was explaining the supernatural to Issei. Wow. So much to take in. But dad, you do know I'm only 5, right? That may be so, but you have to understand that you are a dragon, and dragons have a higher intelligence than any other being in existence. I mean, take you for example, you are able to speak fluent English, yet you're only 5 and not taught. Usually it would take a human a few years to even understand the meanings in the English alphabet. Ddraig rants. I guess you are right about that. Now. Enough dallying. We train. Ddraig roared at Issei, who looks at the prideful dragon and smiles with determination. Time skip, 13 years later. Brilliant son. That's my boy. Ddraig screamed with pride and exhilaration. We see a 15-meter red armored dragon with glowing green eyes and green gems, with 22 bright glowing crystals that were embedded in the wings. The figure had golden parts around the body as protrusion-like tusks around the facial area. The maw of the creature was hideous. This was Issei in his juggernaut drive form. A forbidden form that is only accessible after unlocking the balance breaker and under intense negative emotions, the main factor being rage, depression or deep sadness. However, this mode was a complete form, and the host can willingly use this form without repercussions or negative emotions influencing the host or its negative effects like the incomplete version does. The incomplete form consumes the host's life force as fuel, all the while making them go mentally insane. Even though Issei is in his complete form, it has none of the cons, only the pros. The pros include increased strength, speed, power, force and properties that increase, that even the most powerful people experience fear and terror. The ultimate form of domination. Ahaha. This is fucking amazing dad, I love this form. Issei squealed with absolute joy as he was flying around the training area. Happy birthday, son. Ddraig roared at the declaration of his son's b-day. Dad, this has to be the best thing I've ever gotten in my life. I am pleased that you enjoy this a lot. Issei, come down here, I've got someone here to greet you. Tiamat shouts at Issei to get his attention. "Humming mother," Issei shouted back. As Issei got closer to his mother, he could see a man with black hair, along with golden bangs, wine red eyes and a black goatee. Currently he's wearing a maroon trench coat with 2 belts strapped around each his waist and black smart trousers, with 2 belts strapped to each one of his ankles, while also wearing brown business shoes, and he looked to be in his mid-20s. "Hey, Issei, there's someone I want you to meet," Tiamat said with a smile. The man looked up at the beast that stood before him. Whistles. "Wow. Kid, you look fantastic in that form. It sends chills down my spine." "Thanks, I guess." Issei deactivates the drive and then his balance breaker. Balance breakers are another forbidden move, which once obtained breaks the balance of the battle. Balance breakers can only be obtained by high amounts of either positive, negative emotions or with time and training. "Issei, this is Azazel, the Governor General of the Fallen Angels in the Gregory." Tiamat said while smiling towards Issei. Issei looked towards the fallen angel and realizes that he's the guy that killed his father. "Well, if it isn't the one who house-speared my father." Issei crossed his arms and leans on a wall. "Well, we were at war and your father." Issei cut Azazel's speech. "It's all good, me and Ddraig forgive you." "Wait, you forgive me, Ddraig?" Azazel was surprised. "Of course, I don't hold any animosity toward you. I never did. It was mine and Albion's fault after all." "Okay, who are you and what did you do with the prideful Ddraig we all know?" "Hahaha." Ddraig laughed in hysterics with Azazel being shocked at the dragon's senseless pride. "You see, Governor, I've changed for the better. A near-death experience will do that to you." "I see." Azazel stroked his goatee. "Issei is my son, own flesh and blood." Azazel nodded his head in acceptance. Azazel turns towards Tiamat. "Have you told him about God being dead?" Tiamat said. "Yes, I have. He took it very well in my opinion." Azazel turned back to Issei. "I see. Well, kid, nice to meet you. Sorry for the slow introduction. May I call you Ice?" "Go ahead, I have no problem with it," Issei answered, not caring about what he's called. And if it's alright with you, Cannabear uncle." Azazel quickly tried to get through the sentence while getting quieter. "Huh?" Issei became confused. "Could you say that again?" Azazel whimpered a bit before he said again. "Can I be your uncle?" "Sure, if it's alright with both my mother and father." Issei took a moment to think about what Azazel said. He wouldn't disagree that he felt taken aback at the declaration, but came to terms with it quite quickly. "I don't have any problem with it." Tiamat accepted. "I can agree with this." Ddraig also gave the okay. Azazel was jumping up and down in happiness and in the end, gave Issei a death hug. "Ahahaha, thank you, thank you, thank you." Azazel was someone who was supposed to be calm and a calculative person, but at the moment he was like a little kid who got their favorite thing. "Also, can I please research your sacred gear?" Azazel gave Issei or tried to win Issei over with a cute eye trick. Even though it didn't work on Issei, he still let Azazel do what he wanted as he just simply didn't care. "Fine, whatever. Do what you want." Issei nonchalantly dismisses. "So, as I'm the first and only Red Dragon Emperor, you want me to help you with knowing all the bits and bobs of this thing?" Issei points to the gauntlet. Azazel just dumbly nods. "Alright, I'll see what I can help you with." Issei went to go lay down on his bed to knock out for the day. Earth, Kouh, Japan 590 years later. Issei point of view. "It's nice that mother allows us to live here in Japan. You know, Dad, I've always wanted to live in this country and learn about its traditions. They are really something to marvel at, but Kouh is really where I want to live." So, after all this time of needing Mom to come to Kouh, she finally caved in and said yes. "Ah, look at me, I'm all giddy." Issei talked to Ddraig in his mind. "You are really excited for this, aren't you, son?" Yes, I am," Issei said with pride. Third person Pav. Issei walks to his mother's new house with Tiamat in tow. "Well, this is different," Issei said with disappointment. "What's wrong with this house?" Tiamat puts on an annoyed face. "It's not like that I'm saying that the house is bad or anything, to me it's a downgrade to what we had back then, you know," Issei quickly disclosed. "Was you expecting a bigger and better house?" Tiamat raises a brow. "Well, yes and no. Yes, considering we are dragons and all." Issei spoke with pride. "Let's just go in, maybe you will end up liking the place." Tiamat sighed. Issei and Tiamat make their way in the house and they get settled in. "This house ain't too half bad actually." Issei began coming to terms this is their house now. Issei made his way up to his room while Tiamat began to start on the cooking. "This will either be a really good week or it will be a really poor and pathetic day." Issei sighed. Time skip 12 years. Issei and his mother, Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon, have lived in Kouh for 12 years now and has passed his 6th century, being 609 years old. When they moved in they were greeted by their neighbors, the Hyoudou family. The father Tauji Hyoudou, one of the strongest exorcists in the church. And his daughter Irina Hyoudou. Despite Irina being significantly younger than Issei by a vast margin, she was quite outgoing and playful with Issei, and they hit it off instantly. Issei felt that he had the need to protect Irina's smile no matter what. Every day after that, Irina would force Issei to play with her outside at the park. Sometimes passerbys would stop and look at them thinking, what the fuck, is this guy a pedo or something? Issei on the other hand could not give two shits. All he wanted was Irina to be happy, and happy she was. For a time. 2 years after meeting Irina when she was at the age of 5, she had to leave Kouh to England at the age of 7 to train to become an exorcist in the church, which she was distraught about. So, to cheer her up, Issei showed Irina a secret only he, his mother, Ddraig and Tauji knew about. He showed her his dragonic features, horns, tail, wings, etc. To say that Issei broke Irina's mind was an understatement. When Irina came to, she reveled in his appearance and asked if she could feel them, which Issei complied and brought his tail and wings closer to her. Irina began touch up and down his appendages. Stars could be seen in her eyes as she cuddled his tail. However, good things must come to an end. Present day. Now Issei was getting ready for school. Why school? He's like 600 years old. So, why would he need to go to school? Simple, because he wanted to. Issei was walking up to the school gates. As he did, every other student started to stare at him, girls and boys alike. Who is that? One girl said. A new student. Look, he's wearing the school uniform. Another girl called out. Holy shit. He's so fucking ripped. The third girl shouted, gaining all of the girls' attention on Issei's jacked body. Now all the girls are drooling. And Issei hasn't even taken his shirt off. Issei's sweat dropped. Damn it. One of the boys in the back screams in jealousy. How? He just walked in. Another boy shouted in disbelief. Fucking pretty boys coming in and taking the girls from us. The last boy roared in fury. Issei ignored to what was being said and just walked into the building. He walked down the corridor with people giving him different looks, but he tuned them out. He made his way to the class without much hassle. Okay, everyone listen up, we have a new student joining us today. You may enter now. The teacher called out. Issei walks in and read his name on the blackboard, saying Issei Hyoudou. As he does, screams erupt from behind him. He turned around and gave them his best smile that he could give. The girls squealed and screamed in pure joy and even lust. While the boys groan and rage. Hello, my name is Issei Hyoudou. I have never been in a school before as I'm too academically achieved, or in other words, I'm just too much of a prodigal genius, please take care of me. Issei spoke in a polite tone while bowing as a sign of respect. Okay, any questions for Mr. Hyoudou? The teacher points out. One girl puts her hand up. Yes, Murayama. The teacher announces. Do you have a girlfriend? Murayama said while sporting a blush. No, I don't, and I am not looking for a relationship either. Issei shot down any attempts at any get-togethers with Issei. Murayama looked downtrodden, same with all the other girls. Next. Yes, Caddis. Why did you come to this school? Caddis questioned. 3 reasons. 1. I wanted to see what a school life was and what it feels like. 2. I wanted to get to meet more people and get to know some of you. 3. I was bored. Issei listed. Okay, Hyoudou, if you are as smart as you say you are, then solve these university-grade mathematical algorithms. The teacher handed Issei a sheet of paper with 10 questions that would fry a regular person's brain. But not Issei. Child's play. Issei smirked at the paper, already got the answers for all the questions. Time skip, few minutes later. Alright, done. Issei completed the paper and handed it to his teacher. The teacher checked over his answers, again and again. But, it was alright. The teacher slowly raised his head to look at Issei, with Issei staring directly at him with a smirk, as if to say, that's right bitch, I'm the alpha now. The teacher and all the students' jaws dropped to the floor. Issei went to sit down to the far back of the room next to a window. All the students tracked Issei, including a white-haired girl with a horrified expression on her face. All her instincts were kicking in her fight, flight or freeze response. Hey, Dad. How many devil signatures can you detect? I can make out 11. And one of them is in this classroom. Issei looks directly at the short, fearful white-haired girl. Yes, I sense 11 as well. I would advise caution. Well, if they want to talk to me, then by all means. All they've got to do is ask. Hey. I've got a question. A boy near Issei with glass spoke. Okay, what is the question? Issei said with annoyance. What is your preference on the female body? The boy with glasses questioned. Issei narrowed his eyes and muttered under his breath. Great, perverts. And open ones at that. Issei's eyes turned to slits and stared at the boy. Listen and listen well, you sack of shit, it is not the body that matters. It is their personality. Their personality should always be first, looks come second. Got that? And if I find out the two of you have been doing anything perverted to any of the female body in this school, I will personally rip off your balls and shove them down your throats. Do I make myself clear? Issei said with anger growing with each and every word spoken. The boys cower as Issei anger and aura gradually grew in intensity. The girls were blushing from Issei protecting their dignity and may or may not be fantasizing about him. Issei sat back down as he found himself standing and leaning over the boys' table. Well, that was something. The teacher was scared of Issei anger to say the least. Just saying it now, those two are now on my shit list. Issei pointed at the glasses-wearing pervert and a bald boy who had a pair of big fat ears. I'm skip lunch. Issei was sleeping under a tree near the old school. He knew that a number of devils congregate inside, so he waited for the opportune moment. However, at this point in time Issei only sensed two devils within the building. With his enhanced hearing he could tell what they were talking about. Issei opened his eyes and looked up to a window. A greatly developed and young woman with crimson red hair and sea green eyes was leaning on the window looking down at him. Issei knew who this was, so he was going to be found out sooner than later, so might as well introduce himself to her. Issei winked at her. Iridid obviously blushed as he could clearly see it. Iridid retreated back in the old school. Old school building. Who's that Akeno? Iridid spoke with a bright blush still portrayed on his face. The boy's name is Issei Hyoudou. He is 17 years of age. Lives with his mother and only parent it looks like. Why? Are you interested in him, Rias? Yufufufu. The girl now named Akeno teased her friend. What? And no, Rias quickly tried to deny, however the damage was already done. Rias was blushing furiously now. Unbeknownst to the two of them, Issei was listening to their conversation and he was annoyed because they had access to his personal details and that Tiamat, his mother, was a single parent. Not true. Even though his father may not be physically there, he still did his part, plus with how powerful Issei is now he is able to manifest Ddraig into a physical form for some time. Oh, and when he does, let's just say Ddraig and Tiamat go upstairs for some private time. Issei said to himself, okay, you know what, fuck it. Issei unfurled his wings and making sure no one was around to them. He flew up to the window which was now closed and knocked as it would be rude to just barge in. Knock knock. Rias and Akeno look at the window. How is someone knocking? The window is like what, 4 to 5 meters off the ground. Rias spoke towards Akeno without taking her eyes off the window. Rias slowly approached the window with obvious unease. She opened the shutter doors on the window and saw Issei with his 2-meter dragon wings flapping in place. Finally, I was wondering when you would open up, I thought I might have had to bust down the window. Issei said with a grin plastered on his face. Rias and Akeno widened their eyes. They snapped out of their daze when he spoke. May I come in? Rias just dumbly nodded, not saying a word. Rias, I want to know. How do you have my personal information? Because the only people that should have access to it is the student council and the principal as well as my teacher. So, how do you have my information, which is supposed to be private? Issei said in a serious tone. Rias struggled to get her word out, but Akeno beat her to the punch. Rias asked Sona, who is the student council president, if she could borrow your information because she saw as a valuable piece in her peerage. Akeno got her point across. Issei began to laugh uncontrollably. Rias and Akeno looked at each other before looking at Issei. Okay, that shit is funny. No, it's hilarious. Issei began calming down. It's true, there's a matter that Rias needs help with. Akeno spoke. Akeno, I don't need any help with him. Rias singled out the him in a dark tone. Yes, you do, Rias. Akeno deadpanned. Issei sighed. So, let me guess, it's the Phoenix prick who you are engaged to. Issei smirked. Rias and Akeno become flooded with shock and disbelief. How do you know about that? Rias raised her voice in shock and awe. How do I know him? Please, I've been alive since the end of the Great War, well, just a tad bit after anyway. Rias and Akeno broke there and then. Why, you're 600 years old. Yes, I am. Issei stated with pride. Rias looked almost passed out at this point, and Akeno was not too far herself, but holding on more strongly than Rias. So, what dragon are you? We can see your wings, but what bloodline? Tannin. EPFFTT, oh please. That old geezer wouldn't even be able to create me. No, in fact, when I tell you this you are bound to faint, and that's guaranteed. Issei's prideful smirk grew larger. I feel like passing out already. Rias was starting to get lightheaded. You want to know my bloodline? Then you asked for it. Issei raised his voice from being the prideful dragon he was. I'm the son of the Chaos Karma Dragon, Tiamat. I'm also the son to the heavenly dragon of domination, Ddraig. Ironically enough, I am also the only Red Dragon Emperor holder of the boosted gear ever in history, which also holds my father's soul. Ha 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 ha. Issei became so prideful at his declaration, he turned into a laughing maniac. My power is of that of my father's back when he was in his prime, but now I have surpassed him and Albion together. I am the strongest heavenly dragon to live. Issei let his aura flow out, and Rias, who was already knocked out, was not affected. However, that could not be said for her queen, as Akeno was barely clinging on to consciousness. Issei laughed as he flew out of the window down to the ground, then started walking to class. Inside the boosted gear. So much for being covert. Ddraig shook his head in disbelief at his son and his pride. I'm Skip. Issei came into the classroom laughing his ass off. Issei? Murayama said, concerned. Yes, Muri. Issei began to calm down. Murayama blushed at him using her nickname. What are you laughing about? Well, I just met Rias and Akeno, we chatted a while. In the end, Rias passed out because I told her something personal about my lineage. Issei grinned like a madman. Akeno was close to passing out herself, but she has a lot more self-control than I thought. Even for a sadomasochist like her, I don't think she'll take much more throughout the day. Both Murayama and Caddis had faces of the fuck written all over them. I'm Skip. 15 minutes later. The girl with white long hair and blue-green eyes opened the door to the classroom. Is Issei Hyoudou here? Yes, I'm here. Issei stood up. Sona wants to talk to you in the council office. You're not in trouble or anything. It's to get confirmation about on what you told Rias and Akeno. The girl said. Alright, let's see what Sona wants. Issei took his things with him. Both the girl and Issei are walking side by side talking to each other. Hi, I'm Momo Hanakai, pleasure to meet you. Momo said with a bright smile on her face. Hyoudou? Issei Hyoudou, but you may direct me as Issei Issei, no need for formalities. Momo's blush grew brighter and nodded. They made their way to the doors of the council room, which opened. Welcome, Hyoudou. Please have a seat. The black-haired girl said. Thank you, Miss Citri. Sona widened her eyes as well as everyone in the room. Behind Sona was the vice president and her queen of the peerage, Tsubaki Shinra. How do you know my house name? Sona narrowed her eyes. Well, being alive for a little over 600 years does come with its perks. Issei chuckled while Sona widened her eyes to the max. How's Rias doing, Akeno? Issei turned his head to Akeno, who was on a couch with Ria's head in her lap. Oh, she's fine as long as you don't say that you are Heavnlydragon. Akeno snickered. Issei got a twisted idea, then he turned back to Sona and said. So, Sona, do you know why you wanted me here? Issei's grin was worrying to say the least. I want to know what you are, Hyoudou. Sona looked at Issei with a stoic expression. Rias has told me, but I want to know what you are for my own ears. Hook, line and sinker. Issei said in his mind. No, Sona, don't. Rias woke up from her sleep. Well, alright then. What Rias has said is all true. I am a heavenly dragon that is stronger than both my father and Albion together when they were in their prime. Issei summoned his aura and shouted with pride. Rias passed out once again. Issei lost his balance and fell to the floor and began rolling around while Ddraig was the same. Issei. If your mother was here she would scold the both of us. This shit is too funny to keep a straight face. Ddraig laughed uncontrollably. Yeah, she would, she knows Surziches personally. Saying that we do as well. Issei got up, calming down and began to leave, but Sona stopped him. Wait. Sona shouted. What is it, Sona? Apparently you claim to be the smartest person in the school. I want to test that out myself. Sona smirked. So to test that, do you mind on having a game of chess with me? Hey, so. I'm going to hold you right there. I know your game, Citri. You want me to play chess with you expecting me to lose. However, I'll end up winning, then you will more than likely contact your father and set up an arranged marriage, because the first person who beats you in chess at your own game will have to marry you, and I am not wanting to be in a relationship, let alone marriage, so no. Sorry, but I'm not falling for that trap. Goodbye, Citri. Issei left the room immediately after winking at Sona, who gained a blush. Sona and her peerage are left gobsmacked that somehow Issei knew of the agreement that she and her father had for her marriage. How? How does he know? Sona screamed in disbelief. Next day. Issei was walking to the Occult Research Club, or ORC for short. Lunch had just rolled around and he time to spend, so he thought why not go see how Rias and her peerage are doing. While making his way to the main room, he was conversing with his father. I wonder how strong Rias and her peerage are. To me, I can't even feel any power from them at all. Yes, I have to agree, they are considerably weak, so they will need a lot of training if they want to stand any chance against the Phoenix. Issei opened the doors to the main room. Rias Gremory, the white-haired girl who was stuffing herself with a lot of sweets, chocolate, etc., and lastly a blonde boy who could most likely pass a most pretty competition for males. Issei Hyoudou and Issei Hyoudou. They all looked towards Issei, and in turn he sported a grin. Rias was shocked to see Issei here, as she was not expecting anyone. "Alright, Rias. Show me your peerage's power," Issei said in a serious tone. "What do you mean?" Rias gains a confused look. "I mean, I want to know what I am dealing with." Rias and her peerage became even more confused. "Ugh. You all are clueless. I'm going to train all of you. That's why I wanted to gauge all of you to see how strong you all are." Issei pinched the bridge of his nose in annoyance. Rias and her peerage except one widened their eyes, while the white-haired girl sat and stared at Issei with a fearful look. "Now outside." Issei ushered them all outside behind the old school building. Outside behind old school building. Issei puts up a barrier to prevent anyone from interfering with the training. "So, the only thing you have to do is come at me. I need to gauge your power levels in order to start the training, all of you. So come at me when you are ready." Issei straightened his arm in front of him, pointing to all of his fingers in a beckoning motion. Issei stood in one place, not moving. Kouh on the other hand formed a demonic sword out of thin air and swung it at Issei's left shoulder, while Kouh went with a downwards crescent kick, aiming for Issei's right shoulder. Issei however didn't move and took the impact of both the sword and heel of the girl at the same time. Kouh's sword broke in half as soon as the blade made contact. Despite Kouh being a rook piece, Kouh's heel ended up breaking and a loud crack could be heard, while the dust and dirt from the impact kicked up into the air. Issei stood in the exact same place, unharmed and unmoved. He said, "Is that all?" The Kouh and Rias attacked next. A Kouh shot down a large bolt of lightning from the sky onto Issei, which hit him directly. After the smoke and debris cleared, Issei acted as if nothing had happened. The Kouh with a sadistic smile said, "Yufu, how did that feel, Issei?" Rias let her power of destruction fly towards Issei. "Ah, the power of destruction, same as Serzich's. He did tell me his little sister inherited the ability from the Bale clan, same as him. The Bale clan are the originators to the power of destruction if I remember correctly, but the ability was passed to the Gremorys as the sister to the current head of the clan married into the Gremory clan. I wonder how Vanillana is doing, hope she's doing okay. I should pay her a visit soon. Anyway, Ria's power is far from being perfected." After coming back to his senses, he saw that Ria's ability was close enough for him to hold out his hand and grab the unstable power. Issei did just that. What a way to humiliate the heiress to a clan that holds a famous ability. When the ball of unstable demonic energy collided with Issei's hand, he gripped it with little to no effort. Rias thought for a few seconds in being triumphed, however that victory was quickly flattened. What? How? Rias screamed in disbelief. "Issei. Let me tell you something, Rias. For a person who wants to live a life of freedom to pick the person who you wish to marry and not your parents wanting to force a marriage onto you. I am utterly disappointed in you, I am very disappointed, and you want to know why." Issei squeezed the bridge of his nose hard. "Why?" Rias was ashamed of herself. "Because. You're lazy, you try to get stronger members into your peerage naturally, rather than training yourself and your peerage to get onto equal footing with Riser. At this rate you're going. I'd put you down for the member that has taken the longest time to perfect the power of destruction. Oh, if your brother and mother could see how weak you are in terms of potential. If you were training with your mother and brother at a young age, before you even got your evil pieces at this point in time, I would say you would reach at least a high class devil to low ultimate class. You would be powerful enough to fight Riser and win straight out, but no, you let all of that potential go to waste. Do you know who taught both your mother and brother to master their power of destruction?" Issei looked at Rias. Rias shook her head. "Issei. It was me, Rias. I taught Vanillana how to use her clan's ability effectively and efficiently, while she was also taught by her brother, who is the head of the Bale clan now. Same thing goes for your brother, I taught him, while Vanillana also taught him as well when I couldn't." Rias couldn't take what she was hearing. "Him? He taught my mother and my brother how to use the power of destruction. I really am a failure. Aren't I? I have not hope of getting out of this marriage, do I?" Ria's pride and hope was broken, she fell to the floor in despair with emotionless eyes. "Not with the way you're going, no. But if you want your freedom and your own rights to love and marriage, then you must fight for them, do you understand me?" Issei shouted in Ria's face like a drill sergeant. Yes, I will do whatever I can to take back my life." Rias with her newfound determination and goal, she will stop at nothing in order to get out of his predicament. To make sure Rias was faltering, he tried to motivate her more. "What was that? I'm not sure I could hear you over the sound of bullshit and weakness." Issei shouted in front of Rias, who was on her feet and standing tall despite being shorter than Issei by a big factor. "I will do whatever I can to turn my life around, sir." "Wonderful. Now, go stand with the others. Issei directed Rias to the others who were resting by a wall. Time skip, sunset. Issei was gazing out into the distance while leaning on a railing. Even though nobody was around, he was not alone. The girl with raven-colored hair and violet eyes came up to Issei. Imagine a deep purple aura coating her figure. Be careful, Issei, a fallen angel is approaching you. I sense ulterior motives. I know, Dad, I sensed her for a while, now it appears she's been following me. The lies within her aura. The girl comes closer. Hello, are you Issei Hyoudou? The girl said with a blush. Issei and Ddraig could tell it was forced. Yes, I am, what can I do for you, young lady? She blushed at the compliment, however this blush was natural, not forced. Would you be my boyfriend? The girl bowed in respect. But, Issei could tell she did that to hide something he was not meant to see, possibly grin of sorts. Issei's hypothesis was correct. Her plan was to get close to him by asking him out on a date, then kill him at the end of it. However, Issei wasn't dubbed the genius king of Kouh for nothing. He saw right through her from the very beginning. Oh, really? The girl stood upright and nodded with a blush on her face. Well, I'm sorry. But, I ain't into having a relationship. Better luck next time. Issei came closer to the girl. He bent over to her left ear and whispered. Rainer. Issei straightened back up to reveal a shit-eating grin. The girl now named Rainer was in shock and honestly scared now. How? How did you know? Rainer took a few stumbling steps back in fright. Do you honestly think that I don't know about the supernatural, and did you think that I was a human? Issei raised his voice. Rainer fell to the floor and cowered in fear. Haha, no, I'm not human at all. I am a pure-blooded dragon and one of the most powerful at that. Issei let his aura burst forth. His wings, tail and horns appeared, but the thing that nailed the coffin was Issei's green and blue eyes that glowed brightly. Rainer's eyes widened to the highest degree and her body froze up, she couldn't move an inch. Rainer unconsciously revealed her true form. After having an internal struggle with herself, she broke through her mental barrier and formed a pink spear of light and tried throwing it at Issei, however. Tink. When the spear made contact with Issei, the only thing it did was bounce off his body. Seriously? That's not very nice. Issei pulled an innocent smile, which Rainer knew it was a smile that would promise pain and a lot of it. If she doesn't get out of here as quickly as possible, she will not survive. I need to get out of here. Rainer spun around to fly away, but she ended up flying directly into Issei. Ugh. Rainer lost her balance in the air and fell to the ground. Rainer, who was in a surreal amount of pain on the floor, felt a looming shadow blocking the sunlight as it set. Huh? Rainer said in pain and dazed. Issei bent down to Rainer's level, grabbed and yanked her hair towards him. SHSHSHH, I will let you go this one time. But I want you and whoever you are with gone from this town. If I find out that you and your buddies are still lurking around, I will, and this is a promise, I will tear those wings of yours and their backs so hard that not even the dead god can put them back together. Do I make myself crystal fucking clear? Rainer nodded furiously in fear. Issei let go of Rainer's head and let her fly away. Time skip, next day. Issei was sitting at his desk in class talking to Ddraig. Well, this is boring. Issei huffed. You were the one who wanted to come to school. Yeah, I know. It's just, I thought there would be some excitement to this. I agree, I feel your boredom. Ddraig was equally as bored. I'm going to have a little chat with Rias later. About the fallen. Bingo. Time skip, lunch. Issei made his way to the ORC. Rias, I need you to speak to you. What do you want to talk about? Rias said in her office chair. The fallen angels. Issei said frustratingly. Rias gulped nervously. Sigh. That says everything. How long? Huh? What do you mean? Issei facepalmed hard at Rias' idiocy. How long do you masturbate for? No, the fallen fucking angels. Rias blushed hard. About a week. Rias shrunk in her chair. Rias, this is your territory, and with it comes big responsibilities. That's why Surziches gave you Kouh as your territory to see if you would mature, even though that he knew me and my mother are living here. If I can recall, he said to me a few years ago that he was thinking of giving you my territory. Well, part of it anyway, because Surziches is my ex-student and one of my best friends at that, and along with Grafia, who both of you view as a sister. I said fuck it and had a discussion with my mother, and both of us agreed, however there was one rule and one only. Do you know what that is, Rias? Issei grinned sadistically. And no, I don't. Rias was getting frightened every second. The rule was that I were to watch over the person in charge of the territory me and my mother so willingly gave to her, and do you know who that person was? Rias. Issei got closer to Rias' face. Me. Rias looked at the eyes of the dragon which were boring holes into her mind. Correct. and said to Surziches that if you were to fail with holding your territory up high and protect all of those inside of it, I would have full authority to take it back. Rias started to sweat and sweat a lot she did. Well, I'd say you haven't earned my wrath on taking back my territory as of yet, but if you keep doing what you are doing, then you will lose it in no time. Am I getting through to you? Issei backed away and stood up straight. Rias nodded. Yes. Good. And with that Issei left. Rias had good news and bad news. The good news was that Issei gave Rias another chance, the bad news was that she needed to change undergarments. Somehow and for some reason she was now wet. Akeno came in and saw Rias waddling to the showers, she was dripping wet and Akeno could clearly see it. In response, Akeno laughed so hard that her legs buckled and could no longer hold her. In response, she fell to the floor in hysterics. Not long after, Issei came back in to tell Rias on the story how he met her brother as she wanted to know. Issei, however, found Akeno struggling for breath. Hey Akeno. What is it? You've literally turned blue. Just breath, okay, breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, wheeze, inhale. Okay, I think I'm alright now. Issei. Did you seriously make Rias orgasm from intimidating her that much? Issei looked at Akeno and blinked a few times. What? Oh, dear. Akeno was at it again, laughing hard. Hiba and Kaneko came through the doors a minute later and wondered why Akeno was laughing like she was about to cough up her lungs. Don't even answer. Issei said. Hiba nodded and went to one of the two couches. Kaneko went to the couch straight away and started gnawing on her delicacies. Rias came out the shower minutes after, naked. Seeing Issei again, she felt a cold shiver go down her spine. I'll be right with you. Rias blushed and hurried into her room to get a set of clean clothes. Issei deadpanned, unfazed by the fact that she was naked. Sigh. Alright, I'll wait. Issei rested his head on the head of the couch. A few minutes later Rias came out of a set of doors with clean clothing. So, Rias, I think you know why I'm back so soon. Rias nodded. Good. So, do all of you want to know how I met Surziches? All of the members eagerly nodded their head. Alright, which version do you want me to tell you? All of them became confused. I have two different versions of how I met your brother. The first was when I introduced myself to him and trained him, like I trained your mother. However, the second was in the Civil War. Rias, Akeno's, Kiba's, and even Stoic Kaneko's jaws all dropped. You took part in the war. Rias raised her voice in shock. Yes, I introduced myself to Surziches as the Red Dragon Emperor. No words were said after that. What was his reaction? Rias questioned. Wheel. Flashback. 500 years ago, Underworld. Damn dad, this two-sided war is getting out of hand. Issei, who was in his balance breaker, dodged a stray bolt of demonic power. I agree, son, you think you can end this? No, I don't think I can. I know I can. Issei flies over the battle-forged landscape and across a ruined mansion or castle. It was then Issei sensed two powers colliding with one another. Crimson red power, then ice silver and back to crimson, so on, so forth. The first power was one he was familiar with, the other, not so much. Sigh. Alright, let's see what my student is up to. Issei sigh. As Issei got closer and closer by the second, the strobes of auras got stronger and more dense. The first figure he set his sights onto was his student Surziches Gremory. The second was a woman, was Graphia Lucifuge. Both Surziches and Graphia were too busy glaring at each other to notice Issei. Devils. Issei shouted towards the two in his armor. Surziches and Graphia looked towards the armor-clad Issei. Red Dragon Emperor. First time ever appearing, I see. Surziches said. On the contrary, Surziches. I have been busy, even before you were even born. Oh? And how come I've only got to see you now and never heard of you appearing before? That's because I've been working undercover. Issei said as he commanded his helmet to peel back, giving both of the devils a good view of his face. Surziches widened his eyes, then on instinct dropped to his knees and bowed to Issei in a form of respect. I am so sorry, master. I did not recognize you sooner. Graphia was completely taken aback when she witnessed this. Surziches Gremory, one of the strongest devils, bowing to a human. Oh, hush. I did that so you wouldn't recognize me. Issei looked over to Graphia. Who is she, Surziches? Issei pointed towards Graphia. She is Graphia Lucifuge, daughter to the head of the Lucifuge clan who serves the Lucifer clan in name. I see, so she's with the old Mo faction then. Surziches nodded. Then, allow me. Issei walked away from the kneeling Surziches and over to the cautious Graphia. Who are you, and why is the Gremory bowing to you? Graphia narrowed her eyes. Me? I'm Issei Hyoudou, son to Ddraig the Dragon of Domination, and Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon, and I'm your friendly neighborhood Red Dragon Emperor. Oh, and teacher to both Surziches and his mother. Issei finished. Grafia was in absolute awe, same with Surziches. Even though he was Issei's student, he never told him about his origins. So, would you tell me why are you siding with the old Maus? Because we follow the Lucifer's words and commands. Issei smashed his hand into his face. Fucking idiot. Do you honestly think would win in a fight with the fallen and the angels? Yes, they've suffered heavy losses, but so have the devils. Open your eyes, Grafia, see the bigger picture. It would be better to focus on repopulating the purebloods in a legal way to give birth to a new generation. Oh? And do you think you can stop us? Grafia charged her magic and was getting ready to fire, however in a 100-meter radius, the ground and air started to violently shake. Surziches looked at Issei with unease. Grafia was the same but tried to stand her ground. No. I don't think I can stop you. Issei moved so fast not even Surziches could see. I know I can stop you. Then all of a sudden Grafia was sent flying through the air and smashed through multiple ruined walls, collapsing on top of her. A minute later Grafia burst from the rubble covered in debris. Sigh. I really hoped it would not come down to this. However, it seems I have no choice but to make you submit. Issei's violent aura exploded out of his body and coated around him. The next word said by Issei made even Surziches grimace with fear. Oh boy, you've done it now, devil girl. Ddraig said with disappointment. I, who shall awaken? I am the heavenly dragon, who has stolen the principles of domination from God. I mock the infinite and I fret over the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination. I shall drown you in the depths of crimson purgatory. Juggernaut drive. During the chant Issei's body contorted, grew and overall became larger into a 15-meter armored dragon. After the transformation both Surziches and Grafia were shaking in fear. If you do not want to listen to me by choice, then I will make you listen by force, Issei said. Issei launched himself towards Grafia, who tried to dodge but was not fast enough and was grabbed tightly in Issei's dragonic grasp. Issei used his free claw to swipe at the devil, in which she went into more ruined walls and yet still bounced on the ground. 30 minutes go by and Grafia is doing terrible. She's exhausted, battered and bruised, slashed, even a few broken bones. Her battle outfit she wore was nothing but shreds now, with the exception of her bra and panties. So in a way she's near butt naked. Must say Grafia, those are some nice racks you got there. If I weren't already married, then I'd love to get to know you a lot more. But alas, the wife be waiting for me to get home. Issei deactivated the drive, returning back to his balance breaker. Grafia blushed up a storm and fumbled on her words. TT thank YYU. RR reread, DDDR Dragon E Emperor. Ahaha, no problems. But may I ask you something? Issei chuckles. Yes. Please go ahead. Would you be willing to give Surziches a chance? And see the old Mau faction's errors? This. Issei waved his arm around, directing to the colossal damage and death. This war is pointless over something so trivial. Grafia looks around and sees the destruction that the war has brought, then clicks in her mind. Alright, I'll consider joining the anti-Satan faction. Grafia nodded with hesitation. You don't have to get along with Surziches and the others right now, but in time you will warm up to them. It just takes time, Issei said with a warm smile. Which made Grafia's heart flutter and gain a tinge of red on her cheeks. Then flashback. Everyone was in shock and more importantly infatuated. That was when they realized. Wait, you're married, Rias said in a sad tone. Issei looked down in sadness, recalling the love of his life. Was. Everyone then looked at Issei, who had a sad expression and hollow eyes. I was married. However, a cruel twist of fate can change everything you have into nothing. Rias spoke up, dreading of what she was thinking. Did she cheat on you? Issei shook his head. No. She was too loyal to me to cheat, but if she were to have cheated, then I would not be here as of this moment. Rias and the others became confused. What do you mean? If a mate or mates of dragons were to cheat on said dragon, then that dragon will fall victim to a curse which can only affect dragons. Its name is Dragon's Fall. Issei looked towards them with a haunting look, which made the four members shiver in worry. So, what happened to her then? Rias looked at Issei with pleading eyes. No, I'm not ready to tell anyone yet. Only those who are closest to me know what happened firsthand. Rias was dejected, but she understood Issei was simply not ready to talk about it. I'll see you later, Rias. Issei left with a heavy atmosphere, leaving everyone in the room in awkward silence. I'm Skip, after school. Issei, are you okay? Rias said in worry. I'm fine, Rias. You don't look fine to me, maybe we should do this Anob. I told you, I'm Rias. Now if we don't do this you won't win against Riser. Do you want to be his sexual pleasure thing? No, I don't. Then stop asking if I'm alright and train. Rias slowly nodded. Gibba. You're up. I'm Skip, few minutes later. Come on Kiba, focus. Yes. Yes sir. Kiba said before hitting a blunt object. You're sloppy Kiba, you make many mistakes, which can lead you to a disadvantage or it can be worse. 1. One mistake is all it takes for you or someone you care about to fall and suffer the consequences of your actions. Issei knocked Kiba over on his ass and pointed his sword towards Kiba's neck. Issei gave Kiba a cold glare. Train your mind, clear those negative thoughts. Or you will never improve and you will be a failure to your king. Issei's cold attitude didn't waver. Kiba gritted his teeth in anger towards himself. Issei was right and Kiba knew it. It's your turn Kaneko, give me everything you have. All Kaneko managed to do in the end was make Issei move his hand and arm to counter. How very disappointing. Issei sighed in disappointment. Listen, Kaneko, and listen well. I know you are a Nekomata and sealing your hereditary powers, and it is causing your body to slowly tear itself apart, but I can see you are scared. Scared of becoming like your sister, I take it. Kaneko widened her eyes with fear glazed within them. How do you know? Kaneko was scared, frighteningly so. A magic circle appeared on Issei's right ear. The feminine voice with a very playful sensual tone was heard. Hello, have you decided on having kids with me, Naya? Issei facepalmed. No. It's time for that. Issei's voice got serious. I'll be right there. The person on the other line had no longer a playful and sensual tone, instead replaced with an equally serious tone. Issei terminated the call and not a minute later a magic circle appeared on the grass. Who came out of it was none other than Kuroka, Kaneko's big sister. Kuroka told you. Kuroka. Issei turned to the woman. Issei. Kuroka responded. Issei turned to Kaneko who was being protected by the others. Issei, why is she here? Rias scowled. Betrayed Kaneko. Why else? She killed her master. Rias shouted. Rias, hear her story first. Why should I? Because everyone's got the wrong impression on her. What do you mean? Issei looked at Kuroka while she looked at him. Sigh. I killed my master to save Shiren's life. Kuroka came forward. What do you mean save Kaneko's life? Simple Rias, she killed her master because he wanted to experiment on Kaneko, just like how he did with Kuroka here, however all his peerage died. Kuroka was the only one who survived. Issei blankly stared at Rias. Rias said nothing. And I think you know what was to happen to Kaneko if Kuroka didn't stop him. She would be dead. Period. Kaneko stared at her sister with fear, but also wanting to know herself. Kaneko. Kaneko jumped when Issei announced her name. She stared at Issei with fear. Issei walked up to her and pulled out a journal of sorts. Read this, these are the experiments the Nibirius king did to Kuroka. These are also the same experiments he was going to use on you as well, which would have killed you, just bear that in mind. Issei handed Kaneko the battered journal. Anyway, stand down. She's no longer astray as I've 1, cleared her name. 2, she's with me. Everyone's jaws drop except Issei's and Kuroka. Kuroka, when Kaneko comes to terms with the truth. I'm going to need you to train her like she's never trained before. I was going to do that anyway, Naya. Issei rolled his eyes. Kuroka went over to Kaneko, who was sitting outside of the training field reading the journal. You're next, Akeno. Issei pointed towards Akeno with his left hand and index finger. Move over there. Issei moved his left hand to the right. Now, hit me with everything you can muster. Akeno complied by raising her left hand in the air and channeling electricity. Before anything could be said, lightning crashed down on Issei. How did that feel, Issei? Akeno exposed her side. Weak and disappointing. The smoke cleared revealing Issei unharmed with a deadpan expression. I barely felt a thing. Even though your father couldn't hurt me either, only send electrical shocks throughout my body. Issei shrugged. The name of father triggered Akeno to the highest degree. How do you know my father? Akeno went ballistic and sent another bolt of lightning towards Issei. I know him through my uncle, Azazel, because he's his subordinate. Don't get confused with biological and non. Me and Azazel are not related. Everyone except Kuroka screamed. What? Your father, Akeno, was one of the many people I met and trained with when I was 20. I think 20, it's been almost 590 years since we first met, so my memory is a bit hazy. But do you know what he has been through after the death of your mother? Issei said with a terrifyingly cold glare that even made Akeno shudder with fear and a cold, emotionless tone that could make Hades' Grim Reapers break down from fear. He's been depressed ever since, and do you know what hurt him even more? Before Akeno could respond with anything. You hurt him more than the death of Shuri ever did. You shunned him out of your life, which broke him to the brink of suicide. It took me, Azazel, Shemhazai and Panemu just to bring him out of that state. He told me it would be better to not go through with the pain of being turned away by his own daughter because of something he couldn't or didn't have control over. He only wants you to be happy, and if killing himself will make you happy, he would gladly do it. Issei was shouting at Akeno for the rest of the lecture on her wrongs. At the end he marched towards Akeno, who by now was terrified by Issei's immense anger, and shrunk herself down onto the floor. I could throttle you here and now and no one would be able to stop me. The only reason I haven't done so yet is because your father didn't want me to do anything to you. Issei let his dragon features show, increasing the intimidation factor. Akeno already started crying, which was quite rare for her, which means that Issei broke her to such a degree that not even her masochistic side could take it or was crying due to her large amount of guilt. Issei just stood over Akeno's weeping form. So, do you understand now? Akeno wiped her tears and nodded. Good. You had to blame someone to not lose your sanity, but did you think about your father's? No, the answer is no. His sanity had already dropped when he found Shuri's corpse, but when Barakiel thought you died. He became an emotionless puppet hell-bent on only carrying out orders given to him by Azazel. But when I told him you were alive, his emotions came back once again, just to only be resented. Akeno had enough, she upped and ran into the orc room to calm down. Akeno! Rias shouted. However, when she went to chase after her, she felt a hand on her left shoulder. She turned around to see Issei shaking his head. Leave her, Rias. She needs time to come to reflect on her actions. Fine, but why did you do that? Rias questioned. Everybody has a fear they make at some point in their life. Take Kaneko for example. She, a young girl who watched her sister kill someone right in front of her, then abandoned her to the devils to only be almost executed in place of her sister, only to be taken in by your family. Of course she's going to be scared shitless of her own power. It's the same with Akeno. The young girl witnesses death for the first time and it's her mother no less. Barakiel comes late and she blames him for not being there for them when he was sent out on a mission. She seals her hereditary side like Kaneko. Kaneko, out of fear. Akeno, out of hate and spite. Someone needs to break through their barriers they've built. Once their walls are demolished I can rebuild them from the ground up, Issei stated. A minute or two goes by then. Now, onto the redeed. Issei slowly turned his head towards Rias, revealing a sadistic grin. Rias backed away and smiled nervously. Where are you going, Rias? Issei said in a sadistic tone which creeped Rias the fuck out. I just remembered, I've got paperwork to do. Rias was prepared to run like her life depended on it. Rias turned around to jump away, but to find Issei already in front of her. You ain't going nowhere, you still need to train because your freedom is on the line. Rias accepted right there and then that she was not going to be able to escape. You're right, let's just get this over with. Those were a poor choice of words on Rias' behalf. Oh, just because you said that, I'm going to make you train twice as hard. Time skip 3 hours later. After the brutal training Issei set up for the four, everyone in the end was shattered beyond past their limits. Physically and mentally pushed to their breaking point. Issei's house. So how's your day with the devils, dear? Tiamat asks. Well, my day was good. As for the devils, they are sweet kind, however weak, so I am training them to get them stronger as Rias Gremory's sister to the Lucifer. She has a predicament so to say with a certain phoenix. Issei said. Ah, riser phoenix I presume? Tiamat answered. Tiamat, even though I haven't met him, from what Rias tell me he's a revolting and vulgar man that needs to get curb stomped. Even if Rias loses at what I think she'll do, then I'll be her safety net. Tiamat smiles at Issei's unwavering kindness. Tiamat knows about Issei's side, however despite that personality, it is to help people even if his methods are extreme. Let's just say it involves a bunch of broken bones, tears, rips in the skin, a lot of crying from antagonizing pain, and even temporary paralysis from the drain. How hard are you training them? Tiamat said curiously, with Issei sporting a dark grin. Oh dear, I've set him off, Tiamat thought. Haha, well. They feel like they died 20 times over. Issei sadistically chuckles. Time skip, orc. It was the end of the day of school. Issei had been asked to visit the orc. So Rias, what do you want me for? Issei, how would you like to go on a stray hunt with us? Rias asked blushing. Ifufu, looks like Rias wants the red dragon to hunt for something else. Akeno teased. Akeno. Rias blushed with a color that rivals Ddraig's and Issei's scales. Well, I've had my fair share of killing strays in the past, and some were not pleasant. Issei remembered some strays that could make even dragons have nightmares. Rias stared at Issei with shock. How powerful? The strays I go up against? Issei said with Rias nodding her head. On the scale I would say high class to ultimate class, sometimes stronger. Issei said nonchalantly while shrugging. Rias was going to pass out. Issei smirked. Anyway, why do you ask? Is it because you have been asked to kill a stray? Rias nodded. Yes, the Duke has informed us of a stray in my territory and have entrusted us to deal with it. And IIW want UT to accompany us, Rias stuttered with a furious red blush. Issei started laughing, making Rias pout. alright, I'll join you. Rias perked up and squealed in excitement, which was uncharacteristic of her. She realized what she just did and blushed again, but more so out of embarrassment. Meet us here at 8. Rias pointed at a place of what was a house that would belong to a rich person. Time skip, 3 hours later. Issei teleported to the designated place, which Rias wanted them to meet, an abandoned high-variety home, which has not been used for a long while it seems. Issei, you're here, good. Let's get going everyone. Rias was excited for this, but she had to keep composed as to be the mature figure of the group, even though Issei is 600 years old. So, what information do you have on the stray? Barely anything. Either she kept herself hidden or until now, or Rias was cut off when Issei started to walk in the abandoned home. Name? Issei said coldly after smelling the stench of old and recent. Visor. Rias said in a voice of disgust. Be on your guard, she may be in front of us, but that does not mean you can slack off. Issei directed the peerage. Let me take the lead, Rias. Issei asked. Okay, we will follow your lead. Issei and the rest walked in. Well, what do we have here? Stray devil, Visor. Issei spoke out loud in a cold and harsh tone. You, who has betrayed your master and done selfish act to satisfy your desires and bloodlust, because of that we are here to eviscerate you from this plane of existence. You deserve nothing more than pain and suffering. So, we shall make sure you'll have a slow and agonizing death. Issei stared coldly. Hearing what's said, Rias is surprised at how sadistic it sounded. Akeno on the other hand was loving Issei's side to the point she was wet. Who are you to make accusations, boy? Visor spoke with annoyance. I am Issei Hyoudou, son of both Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon and Ddraig the Red Dragon of Domination, also to extend my power that I hold within me. I am the Red Dragon Emperor. Visor seemed surprised at this. So we got some devils and a dragon. How interesting. Well, if you are who you say you are, then prove it. Little did Visor know that this would be a big mistake. Okay, then. Issei coldly answered. After saying that, Issei let his power lose some of his power, which instantaneously made all of Rias and her peerage drop to the floor. Visor, however, was struggling the most as she could barely breathe, let alone stand. At the moment all that Visor saw was not Issei, but a black shadowy figure in the place where Issei was, with scarlet red eyes with a black mist swirling around him. She knew now that this was not the dragon she saw before her. This was not the dragon she saw before her. No, this was the embodiment of death and terror. To Rias and her peerage everything was normal. Issei's eyes were normal, although glowing intensely, and his body coated in his aura. Let me tell you something, Visor, I'm not even using 0.005% of my power. Either I am just too damn strong or you are too damn weak. Rias was lost for words. Even her brother has nowhere near that amount of strength. Issei's power, who was using less than a percentage, would be equivalent to 10% of Surzich's power. Incredible. Rias muttered. Issei begins walking up to Visor. The raw fear Issei fed on fueled his desire to torture the stray. The quicker I start, the quicker I finish. Issei said, cracking his knuckles and neck. Time skip, 2 hours of painstaking agony later. Flesh tearing, bone breaking, dismemberment, burning, healing, rinse, wash and repeat, over and over and over, again. Barely nothing remained of the stray devil after that. All that was left was a charred black skeleton. Rias had vomited numerous times, Kiba had twice, Kaneko at least once. However, Akeno on the other hand enjoyed the show that was evident on how soaked she was. Issei walked past them without sparing them a glance. Rias looked at Akeno as if to say, what's wrong with Issei? Issei made his way out of the building and took a deep breath. Sigh. I did it again, didn't I? Issei questioned himself. Yes, Issei, you did. I'm not going to scold you. Not like I can do it anyway without a physical body that's not a manifest of your own energy. I know, Dad, I guess ever since she was murdered. I don't know, I somehow changed a little subconsciously maybe. It's like I'm not the same as I used to be. Issei stared at the night sky. Sigh. I don't know how to help you, son, even though I'm connected with your soul. The only thing I can advise is that maybe give the girls a chance. I can't risk it, Dad. You know what happened to her. She was strong, just as strong as Mom. But you saw it, you were there with me. What if something similar happens to them? Issei started to lightly shed tears. Nothing will happen to them. I can see the Gremory girl and her peerage have made an impact on you. Dad. Don't make promises you can't keep. But I swear on by my grave, I will find them, and when I do, I will dice them into the non-existence. Issei went cold. Rias and the other three all heard the conversation as they eavesdropped. They came to the realization that whoever this someone was, she had been incredibly close with Issei, which made both the king and queen feel a strike of jealousy, but that went away when he mentioned her being killed. By them? Who was them? How? What happened? And when? These were the thoughts of the group. I know you're all there, Rias. Issei announced, still being cold. Rias and her group were startled, not expecting Issei to notice them. Rias said fuck it to herself, so she and her peerage approached Issei, who was stargazing. Issei, can you tell us what happened and who you was talking about with Ddraig? Rias pleaded. No. I'm not ready to tell the past. Don't think I ever will be. Issei stood up. No. We need to know. We need to know so we can help you. Rias became really worried as well as the others. I don't need your help. I'm fine. Issei was starting to get annoyed. No. No Issei, you're not okay. Just leave it be, Rias. Issei was now annoyed and now starting to get ticked off. No. You tell me right now, Issei Hyoudou. Rias was extremely worried for Issei now and tried to use her authority as heiress to get Issei to spill. I said, leave it Aluni. Issei unfurled his dragon wings, squatted and then took to the sky. After going to a certain altitude, he took a 90-degree angle leveling out and flew home. Issei. Rias screamed. She was going to get answers. One way or another. Morning. Issei wakes up in his bee. Groggily, he gets up and puts on his morning attire to take to walk around Kouh. Issei did have school that day as it was Saturday. After eating breakfast and chatting with his mother, he set off on his walk once he finished. As Issei walks through the streets minding his own business, he sits down on a bench, puts his head back and closes his eyes. Not even a minute passes and his dragonic hearing catches a yelp coming from in front of him, so he opens his eyes and sees a blonde girl with a nun outfit. The girl tripped up, stumbling on her feet while holding a heavy sort of luggage. Oh, I'm such a klutz. The girl spoke in Italian. Issei wandered up to the girl and helped her up and gather her belongings. Dad, do you sense that? Issei spoke to his dad in his mind. Yes, I do, son. Sacred gear. Both said in unison. Thank you, sir. The blonde raised her head and peered into Issei's emerald and sky blue eyes. At the moment the wind decided to ruin the mood. An updraft of the wind blew the girl's veil off her head. Luckily for her, Issei's dragonic instincts kicked in and quicker than she could perceive the veil was back on her head. The blonde was astonished. She couldn't even form any words. Issei chuckled at her reaction. I saw you trip over, so I came to help you. My name is Issei Hyoudou, pleased to meet you. Issei spoke in Italian and bowed. I'm Asia Argento. The girl smiled at Issei. So, Asia, what brings you to Japan? I see you are not very well versed in Japanese. Issei brought Asia over to the bench he was sitting at. Well, I'm from Italy who lived in the Vatican Church. I see. Wait, you lived in a church? Issei raised an eyebrow in curiosity. At that Asia looked downcast. Hey. What's with that frown of yours? To think of it, she looks a little familiar, but where have I seen her before? Son, if I remember correctly, you came across this girl a few years ago when you was hunting a stray devil. Ddraig recalled the memory to Issei. Oh, yeah. Now I remember her. Issei looked like he had an epiphany. Issei? Asia looked at Issei with confusion. Asia, now I remember you. You remember the guy with a black cloak and was chasing someone a few years ago? Yes, I do remember. I always wanted to know who that man was. Asia said deep in her thoughts. Well, what if I could say that the cloaked man is currently in front of you? Issei grinned. Asia's eyes went wide. Wait. Why, you're the man that I saw. Yes, Asia, I almost didn't recognize you. However, my father just reminded me. Issei gave Asia a sincere smile. Your father? Asia tilted her head slightly in confusion. Time to say hello, father. Issei then activated his boosted gear. Hello little girl, how do you do? I am Ddraig the Welsh dragon and Issei's father. Ddraig addressed himself. It is a pleasure to meet such a well-known dragon. Asia bowed in respect. Thank you, young one. Asia took a moment, then spoke up. Issei, can I tell you my past? Issei took a minute then agreed. As long as you're alright with it. Issei leaned back on the bench. Well, first let me start from the beginning. Asia took a deep breath in. When I was an infant I was left at a church. So, one of the sisters found me and took me in, nurtured me, tutored me and fed me. When I grew older I was walking around the church and found an injured puppy, and all I wanted to do was heal it and bring it back to health. Due to that, not long after I was moved to the Vatican. I was made to heal the sick and injured. People all around the world came to me to heal them. Because of this I was secluded, I didn't have any friends. Asia's smile dimmed into a sad expression. A month ago though, when I was walking around outside of the church I came across an injured person with a gash that went from his left shoulder down to his right hip, so I did what I was taught to do and healed him. However, the man I ended up healing was a devil. He showed his wings and left. Shortly after I was excommunicated, apparently someone from the church saw me heal him and reported it to the Pope. So I was cast out of the church and deemed a heretic. Asia wept tears of sorrow and sadness. At that moment Issei suggested to himself that maybe she could live with him and his mother for a while, but had to ask a question he dreaded. Asia, may I ask? Why are you here in the first place? Oh. That's right, I was appointed here at the church in this town. This triggered alarms all across the board on Issei's radar. It was then and there he made his decision. Asia, there's only one church. It's been abandoned and run down, that hasn't been in use for years. Well, that doesn't matter. I can just help lift it back on its feet again. Asia, I don't think that's a good idea. Issei started to internally panic. Why not, Issei? Trust me, Asia. Going to that church is a bad thing. Just promise me you won't go to the church, please. Issei's protective instincts took over. Oh okay. Asia in shock and surprise. Asia, I want to tell you something. And it's already pretty obvious to me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you believe in the supernatural? Yes, I do, Issei. Why would you ask me that? Issei looked both ways to see if people were present. After taking a quick scan of the area, he concluded that no one was around. Issei got off the bench and walked a few steps before turning around to face Asia. Then he unfurled his wings and dragonic features. Asia was startled at first, but soon calmed down. She went up to him and looked at his magnificent wings. Whoa. Issei. What are you? Asia stared as if she were in a trance. Remember when both me and my father said I was his son? Asia nodded. Well, have you ever heard of the dragon called Tiamat before? Asia thought for a few seconds. Yes I do. She is the chaos karma dragon, right? Issei nodded his head. Yes, she is, but she is also my mother. Asia was now stupefied. What? She's also my mother. Issei spoke with pride. Well, because both my father and mother are dragons, I'm a pure-blooded dragon. I see. So how do you have a sacred gear then? Through the years I've been alive, I've come to know that the reason I have my dad and the boosted gear is because of both a malfunction in God's system and the fact that the boosted gear tried to search for the most compatible host. As I am directly linked to my father through blood, the gear must have found out that I was the most compatible. Okay, but what do you mean by God's system is malfunctioning? Issei sweat-dropped because he knew the reason. A funny story during the Great War God. Might. Have you died. Issei did a nervous smile which only intensified. Asia froze on the spot. She was thrown for a loop. Go God, died. Asia fainted right there and then. Issei then went over to her and carried her in bridal style, then teleported to his room in his house. Hyoudou residence. So, you mean to tell me that you met a nun who was raised by the European church and excommunicated because she healed a devil when you were walking around this morning? Then you told her to not go to the abandoned church which smells of fallen angels. After that you reveal yourself as a dragon with both my blood and Ddraig's blood flowing inside you. Next you end up telling her how in your view you got the boosted gear, and through explaining that, you accidentally revealed that God is dead as well. Am I getting any of this right? Tiamat was sitting opposite to Issei on a couch in disbelief. Issei nodded. Yes. You've pretty much got the gist of it. Issei. What am I going to do with you? It was then that both of them heard the footsteps coming down the stairs. Oh, good evening, dear. Tiamat turned and greeted Asia. Hello Mrs. Hyoudou. Asia sounded depressed. Oh, dear, cheer up. Tell you what, Asia, think of this house as your own from now on. Really? You really mean it? Asia, life crawled back into her eyes. Of course I do, and so does Issei. Tiamat gave Asia a big what smile. Issei, did you also? Yes Asia, I did. And I don't regret my decision. Issei did the same as his mother. You deserve a proper family. Some place where you will be loved and respected well. Asia started crying. I don't know what to say. Think nothing of it. I see you as a little sister. I will see if I can get Sona to enter you into Kouh Academy. Who knows, maybe you might make some new friends. Asia ran to Issei and enveloped him in a tight hug. Thank you. Thank you Issei, Mrs. Hyoudou. Please dear, call me mother. Asia was surprised. Mother? Yes darling, please call me mother. The boosted gear manifested on Issei's left arm. And Asia, please call me father from now on. Issei, you don't mind, do you? For you Asia, I don't mind at all. To be frank, I always wanted a sister. Oh, and father, I will leave you with mom. The boosted gear reappeared and the green gem glowed. Green energy snaked its way to the floor and began to take on a solidified form of a humanoid figure. Thanks son. Ddraig, who was now temporarily out of the gear. Issei took Asia upstairs. Asia, this is your room. Issei opens the door and walked in. Asia walked in after and took a gander around the place, then back to Issei. If you ever need or want anything, just call me or mom, okay? Asia nodded. Issei left with Asia getting accustomed to her new room. Kouh Academy. Issei made his way to school the next morning and walked to the student council office. Issei opened the doors to the council. On the other side, Sona is seen sitting at her desk on her office chair talking with her queen Tsubaki. "Hello Sona." "Tsubaki." Issei greeted. Tsubaki nodded in response while sporting a blush. "Greetings, Hyoudou." Sona replied, also having a blush on her face. "Sona, please call me Issei. You've earned that privilege." Issei said, bowing his head slightly and putting his hand over his heart. Sona blushed at this. Hey. Who are you and why are you hitting on the president?" A boy, who was the only boy in the room, spoke up. "Saji Genshiro." "Saji." Sona called to the boy in a normal relaxed tone. However, slowly but surely, her blood pressure started to rise. Issei looked at the boy impassively. "Well, this is annoying." "Yes, he is rather annoying and has already started to test my patience." "Vritra's host be damned," Ddraig said with irritation evident in his voice. "One of yours I presume?" Issei looked at Sona. Sona sighed. "Yes, he my pawn." "Yeah, that's right, I took up 4 pawn pieces, how many did you take up?" "I bet not even 2 pieces." Saji smiled arrogantly while ticking Issei off. "Sage." Sona called again. But, to fall onto deaf ears. "I bet you can't even hurt me." "Saji." Sona spoke louder and in a more serious voice. "I bet I could put you 6 feet under." Issei was almost to the point of tearing this guy's head off. "Saji." Sona had enough of trying to get through to him and slams her hands on the desk, getting the pawn's attention, making Saji jump. "Yes, President." Saji speaks nervously. "Stop this at once." Sona's anger was at an all-time high. Sage flinches at her tone. "Saji, this guy is not someone you would want to fuck with." "What does that mean?" Saji asks confused. "This person is Issei Hyoudou, a full-blooded dragon." Saji widened his eyes. "And not only is he the Red Dragon Emperor, he is also the son of both the Dragon of Domination, Ddraig, but also the strongest dragon King Tiamat, the Chaos Karma Dragon, add to the fact that he wields the boosted gear, which houses his father's soul." Saji was almost pleading Issei to spare him with fear in his eyes. "I don't even think that Ria's brother could take him on, who mind you is the strongest devil in the underworld and with the title of Lucifer at that." Saji slumped to the ground with distant eyes. "Well, considering that I did train him and his mother personally even before the Devil Civil War started." Issei shrugged. Now both Sona and Saji looked directly at Issei with widened and shocked beyond belief expressions. "Well, now that is sorted out. Sona, the reason why I am here is because I took in a lost nun who was excommunicated from the Vatican Church for healing a devil, and I think she's being manipulated by the fallen angels to come to Kouh's abandoned church. So I took her in, she's going to need a placement in the academy to be protected." "I see. HMPH. You have my word, Issei. However, I'm going to need to ask you something in return though." "Name it." Sona turned few shades scarlet red. "Please. Could you train us?" Sona bowed with a blush on her face as she shed her cold and strict demeanor. Issei was taken aback, not expecting the current situation he was in. "It would be my pleasure, all you had to do was ask." Issei turned to Saji, who had a terrified emotion plastered on his face. Issei showed him a predatory grin. Issei started to leave the room. "Ciao," was all that he said before he was gone. Throughout the day of the school during the lunch, Issei was training the Gremory and Citri peerages, but mainly Rias because of this riser he heard so much about. Hyoudou residence. Now that school is over, Issei is almost at his door with the sun setting behind. Issei makes his way to the front door and unlocks it, then enters the house to find that his mother is not home, most likely shopping or something. Issei makes his way up the stairs of the house, however when he comes across a certain door he hears and feels a strong gust of wind. Thinking Asia is staring out of the window, he knocks on the door. Knock knock, no knock knock knock. Issei waits for a few seconds yet. No one responds. Issei is a bit on edge now. "Asia, I'm coming in." Issei opens the door to find the window smash inwards, glass and droplets of blood in the carpet. Issei starts to frantically panic, all the while his dragon rage and aura grow increase intensely. Issei finds a sheet of paper with a knife pinning it to the wall. Issei hurriedly rips the paper off said wall. And starts to read its contents. "Hello, Red Dragon Emperor, sorry for taking the Holy Maiden. But, we've got things that we require of her, sacred gear and all that. Our boss, a leader in the Gregory, has ordered us to take the girl's gear from her, this will however inevitably kill her. But don't worry, we will give her a good send-off. Signed Rainer." In anger Issei scrunches the paper and burns it with his flames. With no other emotion, Issei makes his way down the stairs and heads to the kitchen. He takes out a note and pen and proceeds to write to his mother, saying that he won't be back for a few hours. He then rushes to the house door and leaves, locking it behind him. In the middle of the streets of Kouh, Issei got 3/4 of the way to the church before stopping and coming to a standstill. Issei's power and aura thus suddenly skyrocketed to obscene levels. His aura flows off him and separates into 10 clones of himself. He instructs them to create more, totaling up to 100 clones, a little overkill, but he was not taking any chances of failure. Issei then turns to his clones and says, "Today, brothers, we are here because there are fallen angels in this town, and I have been considerate enough to let them live, as I warned one to leave with the group. However, that is about to change. They have defied my warning and taken someone who I view as a little sister. Now nothing awaits them but death and suffering. This is your order. Kill all who stand in your way, let none leave alive. And if you see the female fallen with black hair and violet eyes, capture her, alive. She is mine to deal with, is that understood?" The seething anger within Issei was clear and evident. "Yes, sir." The clones responded in unison. "Good, now." Issei turned around to face the direction of the church. Issei began to chant. "I, who shall awaken, I am the heavenly dragon that abuses the principles of domination. I am one with the infinite as I display the dream. I shall become a dragon that brings dread to all who stand before me, as I drown them into a waking nightmare." Balance break. All the clones called out together, all of them clad in the default balance breakers. While Issei is in a completely different armor. Clone's armor. Meanwhile at the orc. Rias, Akeno, Kiba and Kaneko were in the club room talk about everyone's training and how it is going. However, they felt a very powerful spike in power. "Akeno, is that who I think that is?" Rias said to her queen in worry. "Yes, Rias, I think so," Akeno replied. "Issei." Both said at the same time. Back with Issei. Issei is now leading the march toward the church, all clad in red armor. Issei with his armor and the clones march down the streets of Kouh, clanking metal footsteps in unison. "I will save you, Asia, and I will make them pay." Issei's eyes are full of hate, anger, rage, grief and determination. Issei and his army make it to the gates of the church. Issei pointed to the gate. "Tear it down." 2 clones went up to the gate and easily tore it off, then they continued to proceed through the cemetery to the abandoned church. Inside the church, 5 minutes earlier. We seen Rainer and 3 more fallen angels surrounded by a large group of people in exorcist clothing. They are priests that have gone rouge. Attaching Asia to a cross of some kind with chains. "Hurry up, he will be here soon." Rainer yelled at the 3 other fallen in a panic. "We are going as fast as we can, Ray. Why are you in such a panic anyway?" Millet worked on the unconscious Asia. "Yeah, I want to know as to why you're scared shitless of this human." Kalwarna spoke, crossing her arms under her large-sized bust. "He is not human. I don't know what the fuck he is, all I know is he's far from a human." Rainer was in hysterical fear. "Just shut the fuck up. Let's just get this done." Donasik said, feeling irritated. "Well, if he does show up, Fried will keep him at bay for a while." Millet spoke. "No. Not even Fried will be able to do anything. We should have left while we still had the chance." "Bong. What was that?" Millet questioned. "I don't know, but I'm getting a sense of impending doom." Kalwarna shivered. "Shit. Oh fuck. He's here, he's fucking here." Rainer crumpled onto the floor and tightly grabbed her hair. "Rainer, snap out of it." Millet went up to Rainer and slapped her, hard. Rainer, however, was in too much of a fearful catatonic state that the physical hit didn't do anything. Kouh Academy orc, 2 minutes earlier. Akeno, Kiba, Kaneko, if that was Issei, then something has happened, and if that is so, then we need to help him. Rias ordered. Kiba, the Knight of Rias, spoke up. "President, what do you need me to do?" "Nothing as of yet. We will observe Issei and see what he can actually do." Rias makes a teleportation circle with her peerage in and leave to the church. Outside of the church, present time. Issei and his army have just gotten through the gates of the church and are now marching down the path to the main doors. As he's walking, he senses Rias and her peerage's presence near but are out of sight, however he heeds them no mind. His main goal and only goal was to save Asia. "My lord, we are here," one of the clones announced. "Orders, sir." A clone turned towards Issei. "Initiate operation, clean house." Issei spoke, staring towards the church doors. "Yes, my lord." Issei raised his arm and pointed to the chipped and worn down doors. "Tear that thing off its hinges." All the clones march past Issei and 2 of the lead clones end up kicking the door down with so much force that it flies to the back of the church and crashes on the podium, destroying it. Rias and her peerage, who were observing everything behind some shrubbery and were shocked to the core, even Kaneko, had her mouth agape at the sheer awe at the sight. It is as if they saw God die. As they entered, clone after clone could be seen overwhelming a silver-haired male with exorcist clothing. "What the fuck are all of yo? Aaggh." The priest screamed his lungs out as loud as he could before getting double-teamed by 2 clones, one punching him in the solar plexus and getting kicked in the spinal cord, then getting launched to a wall. More than likely Fried is now never going to be able to walk again, yet 5 more clones are still after him. Issei walked to the altar which was now destroyed and moved the doors which fell onto it. He then made his way down to the basement. A minute later Issei comes to the end of the stairs and sees the 3 fallen being outnumbered by 5 clones, while 2 hold Rainer as a captive. What is left of the large cluster of Rouge priests are many surmount of bodies littering the floor with the stains of crimson blood, smearing the walls and said floor. Although not many, there are some that are still alive. Barely. When Issei's aura makes contact with their bodies they are instantaneously vaporized into nothing. The fallen angels that includes the captured Rainer look on in horror and shock. What the fuck is going on? Millet screams. Issei turns his head to her, which she reels her body to make herself smaller in fear. Issei got a telepathic call from one of his clones that were guarding the front of the church. Let them in. Responded to the clones that were guarding the entrance of the church he ordered to stay behind. Line the fallen up in a single file. Issei coldly ordered, then looked at Rainer and pointed towards her. Accept her. One of you restrain her while I'm busy. Right away sir. All the angels except Rainer are forced to be lined up next to one another and kicked onto their knees with binds made out of Issei's own aura. Rainer, however, is being personally restrained by a clone to the point she can't move. Issei makes his way up to the cross and inspects Asia. Issei, you have at least 2.5 minutes before the extraction is complete. Ddraig advised. Thanks for the heads up. Issei then summons a sword that looked like it was meant to kill. However, despite its large size, Issei could easily wield it with one hand, as if it were a regular sword. Issei then strikes at the chains, which the chains shatters. Gravity starts to affect Asia's body, and as she's falling, Issei catches her in his arms. He sets her unconscious body onto the floor in front of the fallen. Issei then slowly raises his head to look at the 3 who are kneeling. Rainer, Millet, Kalwarna and Ddraig stare at his deep glowing eyes, with him snarling and seething anger. Now they know why Rainer was scared to the degree she was, because now they feel the same. I thought I told you that I gave you and your friends here a chance to leave. It wasn't a choice, it was a threat, a promise that if you didn't leave and or put innocents in harm, I would make you and them a very painful and slow death. Yet still with that promised threat, you stayed instead of packing your shit and getting the fuck out. Issei's aura burst outward and engulfed the entire basement. You stayed and decided to put an innocent that is in my territory in my fucking care. Well, you will be in my care now. Issei had a malicious grin that was identical to a psychopath's. Issei felt Rias and the others enter the basement, but still did nothing. With Rias in her peerage. 14 minutes earlier. What the fuck? Rias cursed, shedding her noble attitude from being flabbergasted at the display of overwhelming domination. President, what did we just witness? Kiba paralyzed in shock. Yufufufu, well it seems our dragon is very angry. I love his display of dominance. Akeno drooled. Kaneko didn't say anything as. Well, she couldn't. Eyes wide, mouth agape. Let's go in. It won't be that bad. Right. Rias encouraged the others, although she was not fare any better. When they approached the church entrance they were stopped by 4 clones guarding it. Halt. What are you doing here? State your business. We want to see Issei. Rias shifted back to her regal and noble self, however the stuttering was still present. Let me get confirmation from our lord. The clone sent a telepathic call to Issei. A few seconds later. Authorization has been granted, you may enter. Clones moved out of the way, letting the peerage advance. When they entered the church to see just how obliterated and ruined it is. Kiba manages to make out a figure under some rubble and debris who is not moving. They proceed down the long stairway. A minute later they reach the last step and witness Issei next to the unconscious nun staring at the 4 angels. Times now interlink. Please, we won't do anything, please let us go and you won't see us anymore. Millet begged for her life. Yeah, can we just forget this even happened? Kalwarna's sweat dropped in fear. We won't trouble you ever again. Please have mercy. Ddraig scrunched his eyes in fright. Issei grinned psychotically with crimson flames flowing through his hand and a green light on the other hand. What are you doing? Millet tensed up in fear. I'm going to make you constantly heal, like that of the phoenix's healing factor, while setting my blazing inferno of scorching flames on all of your bodies. These flames are my father's, as I'm his son, I inherited said flames and let me tell you, these flame can incinerate the soul. Issei scared the fallen out so much they fainted. Rias and her group widened their eyes. His first victim will be Rainer. And he will make her friends watch as she slowly but painfully burns to death while also getting healed at the same time. Issei slaps all of them back to consciousness. WW, what are you? Ddraig screamed in total dread. I am the son of the Red Dragon of Domination, Ddraig, and the son of the Dragon King Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon, and I am the Red Dragon Emperor, as I hold the boosted gear. The four fallen angels' hearts sink. Shit. We fucked up. All of the thought. Now I'm going to make all of you regret everything. Issei said coldly. We're sorry, we were ordered by Lord Kouh. Donici relented. Issei's expression darkened even more than before. Kouh. To think I would ever hear his name again. Issei said, thinking back in the past. Issei then went up to Donici and yanked him by the collar. Where is he? Issei's growl reverberated throughout the chamber. Donici shut his eyes tightly as he was being throttled by the pissed-off dragon. We don't know. Probably stealing the Excaliburs for his plan. Donici ended up spilling the beans. Diba's mood and expression darkened. He approached Issei and the fallen. What is he planning to do with them? Kiba responded coldly. He plans to restart the Great War by murdering the two sisters of the Devil Kings, I swear that's all I know. Issei then threw Donici so hard into a wall, he instantly died and exploded upon impact. Issei then roared out in anger and rage. Kouh. His roar was so loud that Rias and the others had to clamp their hands around their ears. The rest of the angels, as they were bound, they couldn't dampen the sound, resulting in their ears bleeding. Everyone except Issei and his clones were slack-jawed. Issei was no longer grinning. Suffer. Issei said to the other fallen and then lit them all on fire with his blazing inferno of scorching flames. Rainer, you will have special treatment from me. Issei was going to take pleasure in torturing her. 15 minutes later. At the end, Rainer was broken physically and mentally. Bones shattered, skin torn and burned, limbs separated, then healed to redo over and over and over again. Millet and Kalwarna were just as broken as Rainer, yet they were still screaming in pain as they were on fire. Issei clicked his fingers, dispersing the flames along with the screams. Have you all earned a valuable lesson? Rainer, Millet and Kalwarna all meekly nod their heads. Good. Issei then pulls out his phone and dials someone. Ring. Hello. Hello uncle. Issei, my boy, how have you been? Been good, apart from the fact that your four lackeys are taking orders from Kouh, who is going behind your back once again and wants to restart the war. The phone ended. With that, not even 5 seconds later, Azazel comes through a magic circle with a scowl on his face. Where are they? Issei points to the 3 remaining fallen. You 3 are in a lot of trouble. Where's the other one? Azazel looks towards Issei. Issei turns to a blood splatter on the wall. Azazel nods in understanding, so he doesn't say anything. Issei goes over to Asia, who is waking up. Issei. The dazed Asia looked at Issei, who had a relieved smile on his face. Hello Asia. Issei, you came. Asia jumped into his embrace. I will always come and protect you, Asia. No matter the cost. Issei held Asia in a tight embrace. Kouh Academy. Asia had been enrolled into the school. With it being her first day, she was quite nervous yet excited. She couldn't wait to make more friends. Issei and Asia made their way through the gates, however they ended up attracting a lot of eyes. Issei could hear most of the chit-chatter that was about them, and some of the comments made Issei's protective side come out. Who is she? Why is she with the king? During the time Issei spent at the academy, he earned the title of King of Kouh. Do you think they are a thing? What? What is he doing with her? How dare you? Taking all of the women for yourself. This comment made Issei snarl in annoyance and anger. Why? Must God be so cruel? Too bad, said God is dead and no longer among the living. Just I, pretty boy. She should be with me, not you. Issei sent a cold and piercing gaze to the who said that. Ever since the incident with Asia, Issei has become very protective over her, a little too protective. They're lucky he didn't rip out their throats. Issei and Asia made it to their classroom, however, Issei told Asia to wait outside until she was called. Issei went inside and took his seat. The teacher came through announcing her presence. Alright class, today we have a new student joining us. The students began to gossip on the possibilities of who it might be. Please, come in, introduce yourself. Asia walked in and all the males cheered. Issei frowned in disgust. Hi, I'm Asia Argento. I was transferred here from Italy. Please take care of me. Asia spoke nervously and bowed. Okay, now do we have any questions for Miss Argento? Yes, Murayama. What is it like in Italy? Well. I never really got the chance to go out much as I was raised in a church and they were strict, so I was limited to what I could do, but when I did get permission to leave the church and explore, the scenery was amazing. Hadis. You said you was raised in a church, how did that come to be? Aki, that's too personal. Issei said mentally. I agree. I was an orphan as my birth parents left me in the care of the church, which I was raised by. Most of the people felt sorrowful. I'm sorry, that must have been heartbreaking to hear. And no, I'm fine. I came to terms with it a long time ago. Alright, few more questions, then we will start the lessons. Issei heard mumblings from behind him. He turns around and sees Motohama spilling size measurements. This pissed Issei off to a high degree due to his new protective streak towards Asia. Issei quickly spanned off his seat, grabbed Motohama's head and slammed it on the table. Although he used a bit more force than he thought when the table split in half and probably cracking Motohama's skull in the process. After that Issei sat back down in his chair. With girls cheering in the background. The cheering then settled down, then another question presented itself. Where do you live now then? Way too personal, but not as personal as the first. I live with Issei. Issei gently smiled. What? Being a dragon, his hearing was extra sensitive. Putting his hand around his ears to muffle the sounds, but it was all in vain as he could still hear as if at full volume. What do you mean living with Issei? Murayama screamed. I live in his and his mother's house. In the same room? A different voice made itself known. No, we sleep in different rooms. We'll, if you ever need to win Issei, come find me. Aika sits back with a perverted grin. After the introduction Asia sat on an opposite table parallel to Issei's. When break arrived Issei went outside and laid down on a tree near the orc to rest. Asia, however, was still in the classroom with the other girls. Murayama, Caddis and Aika all made conversation with the blonde. Suo, what's he like? Murayama said with stars in her eyes. What do you mean? What's Issei like at home? Caddis took over. Well. He's brave, kind, loving, very protective over me and compassionate. Asia said with embarrassment. Murayama went off in her own world fantasizing about Issei. There was no doubt that she has developed a genuine crush for the dragon. He also saved me from being kidnapped and killed. So, he's a hero then. Caddis said fantasizing as well about Issei saving her like a knight saving a damsel in distress. Turns out she's the same as Murayama. Yufufufu. Aika winked at Asia. Before break ended, Issei got to the classroom. Upon entering, he was met by Aika who started to inspect him. Sometimes adjusting her glasses. Aika, what are you doing? Aika just stood there examining his crotch. Aika's face then burst to a red comparable to Ria's crimson hair and with steam flowing out of her ears. Aika looked up at Issei's face. How? How? What? How is it that big? Issei smirked in pride. He passed by Aika and sat down in his chair. Issei, how is it 14 inches? Aika said blushing furiously. Issei couldn't help but laugh at Aika's state. Well, Aika. Did I surprise you? Issei's smirk grew wider. You did more than just surprised me. I almost fucking passed out, I could feel my consciousness leaving me. After another hour it was lunch. Issei and Asia walked to the orc to greet everyone. However, when they greeted them, they were all showing signs of unease as if they were waiting. Rias. Oh, hey Issei. Rias smiled. Issei catches on. Rias, something wrong? Rias sighed. Yes. Today Rias got cut off to a yellow flaming magic circle appearing. Phoenix. Kaneko states emotionlessly. What comes out of the circle was none other than the arrogant prick Riser himself. Riser Phoenix. It has been a long time since Riser's been in the human world. Rias, there you are. Come let's go visit the ceremony hall. Riser appeared through the circle and once laying his eyes on Rias, went up to her and started to push her to where Riser came through. No. Leave Riser. How many times do I have to say this? I will not marry you. Rias was on guard and let some of her aura flow. Now, no need for hostilities Rias. Riser sported an arrogant grin, which said grin turned into a frown. Rias, this marriage is important to us devils because of the great and civil wars. We lost so many devils. I understand that Riser and I am willing to take a husband. Great. Then let's. But not with you. Riser and Rias have a staring contest match, each not backing down. Issei, who had been watching from the sidelines, had accessed Riser enough to know he was a person who never trains. As much as I would love to keep this going. You Riser are quite a pathetic excuse of a devil. Issei cut in diverting Riser's eyes to him. Who are you and how dare you call Riser pathetic? Riser coats his hand with fire and goes for a punch on Issei's cheek. I wouldn't do that if I were you. A feminine voice was heard however, Riser ignored the warning. When his fist landed, instead of Riser doing any sort of damage to the dragon, it backfired and caused his hand to break and shatter his bones. Ah! Riser screamed in pain. I told you. Issei looked over to where the voice was coming from. It was Grafia. Hello Fia, how are you doing? Issei walked up to Grafia while she sported a blush and a smile. I have been doing good, Lord Issei. Issei frowned at the use of honorifics. How many times do I have to say Fia? Just call me Issei or Ice if you prefer. Issei gently grabbed Grafia's chin and made her look at him. Her blush intensified. Rias and the others were stunned. Grafia was always a stoic and strict character. Seeing how she's expressing emotions is make them think how have you and Zetches been getting along? Issei calls Zetches as a type of nickname. We have been happy. He treats me like a loving brother. Riser is in disbelief that this person who insulted him is now talking casually with the second strongest female. What's more is he sees Grafia smiling. Anyway Fia, if you don't mind, I have a feud with the overly cooked turkey. Riser got peeved at the insult. Alright, human, who are you and why are you here? Issei turns around to face Riser. Oh, right, you're here. Issei joked, of course. But Riser still got mad at the comment. For your information, Riser, I'm not a human and I never was. Issei walks towards Riser and sports a predatory grin which made Riser's instincts kick in, telling him to run, but he ignored them and stood his ground. Then what are you? Riser was now starting to sweat through nervousness. Me? Issei stared to shed his appearance, gaining his slitted eyes sky blue on the right and emerald green the left, the unsheathed sharp teeth. The skin on Issei hardened and shaped into scales in the coloration of red, sky blue and white. His nails grew long and sharper that blackened. Why you're a dragon? Riser screamed with terror while slowly backing away as Issei advanced. Oh? And what gave that away? Issei grinned maliciously. Issei at this point had his horns that shaped into that of sharp and hardened piercing tools like a bull and thorns around the horns like the thorns on a rose. His tail had the shape of a four-pronged spear, with four reversed prongs facing towards the base of said tail as well. Get away from Riser. Riser fell onto his backside and tried to crawl away. But Issei grabbed him and lifted him into the air. Issei is now around 7 feet in height and was towering over Riser completely. Call your peerage. Issei spoke with a feral growl. In fear, Riser didn't say anything and complied by clicking his fingers. Within a second, another flaming magic circle appeared and transported 15 members, which were all female. The females were expecting things to go over smoothly. However, they found the 7-foot dragon, shadowed over by black darkness, holding Riser in a death grip. Because of this, they went into their respective defensive stances. Even though they were scared shitless. Issei turned to them, piercing though each one with his glowing slitted eyes. Names? Issei spoke with his dragonic voice. They shakenly speak with terror evident in their voices. I'm Island, I'm Nell, we're both twins and pawns. The twins said in unison. Seriously? Middle school kids. Issei was that close to erasing the Phoenix's existence. Carry on. Alright, well I'm Nai and I'm Lee. We are also both pawns. And you are both Nekamatas. Okay. Marion, sir, pawn. Burant, nice to meet you, sir. I am a pawn. Sharia, pawn. Mira, pawn. Well, it's a pleasure to meet all of you, but there's one that hasn't introduced herself yet. Issei looks over to a blonde-haired girl who was concealed behind the others. I'm Ravel Phoenix. I am the second bishop, and I command you to release my brother at once. Ravel Phoenix. What the fuck? Issei makes a face of one that of shock and disbelief, then in a second contorts to anger. And here I thought being a pedophile was bad, but seriously? Incest. That's it, I'm killing him. Issei was inches away from tearing Riser apart. Riser Phoenix. Issei spoke coldly and with very little emotion. Riser flinched. I've had it with you. I was going to only scar you and let you live, but now I have changed my mind. Issei no longer had the grin. I want you and your peerage to fight me in a 1v15. And I want it live. Issei turned his voice towards Grafia. Fia, tell Zetches the time has come. My presence must be felt. Issei never took his eye off of Riser. Very well, Issei. Grafia left in her magic circle. Issei looked at the bird's peerage. Leave. Except for Ravel. Ravel unconsciously started sweating. Has he done anything to you? No, big brother has never laid a finger on me. That's a relief. Issei sighed. But why would you want to know? Ravel tilts her head rather cutely. Because he's your biological sibling, and if he did do anything to you too, then I would have incinerated him here and now, no questions asked. Ravel blushed. Grafia came back through her circle. Everything is set up. With the amount of anger you have accumulated. I thought about the to the death part. Issei grinned madly. Good. You. Me, we fight to the death with the exception of your peerage in a couple of days. I was going to let Rias and her group fight you. However, due to circumstances that has changed. This shit is now personal. Riser nodded furiously out of pure overwhelming fear. Now, leave. Sack of shit. Issei let Riser go so he could make a magic circle. Just as Riser was leaving, he could see behind Issei a giant emerald dragon eye staring directly at him. Now that's done, we can relax. Issei sat down on the couch near Rias. Rias got closer to Issei and started to hug him. Issei was shocked and, to be honest, scared. But he held that within himself. Grafia knew why he was like this, and no matter how many times she saw it, it didn't make her feel any better. Grafia felt jealous of Rias. Issei. Thank you. Rias spoke with gratitude and even love. You're welcome. Issei smiled his signature smile, making all the girls including Kaneko blush. Yufu, I think I'm wet from that display of dominance. Akeno said, panting. That was awesome. Kaneko said with more emotion and a blush. Well done, Issei. That gave me a run for my money. Kiba smiled. Issei, that was amazing. Asia said with happiness. When I get serious, I can do some damage. Issei shrugged. Well, I and Asia will be off. Issei got off the couch. Rias craved Issei's warmth. See ya, Fia. Do take care of yourself and tell Zetches that I said hi. Issei cupped his left hand under Grafia's chin, making her blush. After Issei said his goodbyes, he and Asia left. Grafia sits down next to Rias, who had a dreamy look on her face. Grafia had a similar problem akin to love struck. You love him too, don't you? Grafia turned to Rias. Yes, I do. Rias came to her senses and blushed to the point of steam appearing out of her ears and a crimson face. It's okay to be truthful, I love him too. However, sighed due to an incident, he's afraid of wanting to be in another relationship with anyone. Afraid that he can't protect them. He's already lost one very, very close and dear to him. Grafia became downcast and sad. What? What happened to Issei? Not now, Rias, soon. With Issei. We're home. Issei shouted as he opened the door to his house, letting Asia in. Welcome back, you two. Tiamat announced. How was it? Well, Riser came today to visit Rias, and I scared the ever-living lifetime of semen out of him. Issei smirks. Tiamat began laughing hard. I see, hope you gave him PTSD. He won't be alive enough to get diagnosed. Issei cackles. Issei, I need to tell you. Ejuka has asked me to do something for him, so I won't be back for a couple of weeks. Tiamat announced. Alright then. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.